It doesn't bother me. I'm a firm believer. All they can do is tell you no. If you shoot for the stars and you land on the moon, Skip, I think you'll be pretty happy with that. Clearly, he's outperformed his current contract. And the problem that I have with the NFL, and I have many, and I think I've voiced those problems on this show a lot. But the problem that I have, Skip, is that when you overperform a contract, the first thing the owners and general manager will say is that you're under contract, you signed the contract. But if you underperform that very said contract, they'll release you and says, well, he didn't meet the expectation. So now, if I sign the contract and I overperform it, you can say, well, you signed it. If I underperform it, you don't mention anything about I signed the contract. So you want to get out from under it. Skip, I have no problem for this young man because he has outperformed his current contract. But he's in a very, very precarious situation. If you look at the guys that have gotten these new contracts, the Julio Jones signed 5 years, $71 million, for about $47 million guaranteed. Dez got about $45 million guaranteed. Demaryius Thomas got about 43.5. What he's looking at, he's not looking at those contracts. He wants that outlier contract like Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson signed a contract in 2012, Skip. 8 years, $132 million, $16.5 million per season. They call it an outlier because we had never seen anything like that before, and we haven't seen anything like it since. And what the Detroit Lions did is something that only reserved normally for quarterbacks, Skip. They tore the contract completely up and started anew. $53 million fully guaranteed. Odell has this year and the fifth-year option. So what are you going to do, Odell? They're not going to give you that outlier contract. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be the highest paid player. But since you have 2 years, this is what we're willing to do for you, Odell. They're probably going to come to him and say, Skip, say something like this, Skip. Odell, you have 2 years left on your contract, and you have outperformed the contract, and we want to reward you for your performance. This is where we are. He's going to be somewhere in that Julio Jones, maybe $45 million, Skip, because he has 2 years. He can't get money as if he was free because he's not free. So in order to get some security, he's going to have to give up something on the front end. And I believe they can get this done. I believe if he come in at about $47 million, $47 million, they can get this deal done. But if he's thinking Calvin Johnson contract, that's not going to happen.
Okay. I hear everything you just said about how he has outperformed his current deal.
Do you agree?
I have no issue with that.
Okay.
He has certainly done that, in part because of where he was drafted, which was not his fault, on down the line, enough that it made him underpaid for his first 3 years in the league. I get all that. But that is not what the young man just said on Uninterrupted, as we just heard. He said the elephant in the room is that one day he's going to be, let's just face it, the highest paid player in the National Football League. He didn't say, I want to be the highest paid receiver in the National Football League. And you know what I think about how valuable a receiver is versus how valuable a quarterback really is.
Right.
So don't give me that you're going to make more than $25 million quarterback will make a year, because he won't.
No,
but in his head, that came across like he truly believes in his heart of hearts.
No, he doesn't.
Let's just face it. One day, it's the elephant right there beside me in the room. I'm going to be the highest paid player in the National Football League. Isn't that what I just heard him say?
Yeah.
Okay. So my conclusion is that even though I was astounded when I heard Odell say that, I was not surprised, because I've told you before, this young man, and I do like him. I can't help but like him, but I'm going to be real about him, harshly real about him. He is staggeringly delusional. He has lost all perspective about who he really is and how very little he has actually accomplished in the National Football League so far. So let me get this straight. He's already talking about that he, not wanting to be, that he will be the highest paid player one day in this league, when all he has to show for on his playoff resume right now is a grand total of one playoff game. last year, a road wild card playoff game at Green Bay, before which he was the tour guide taking a group of his receivers to South Beach to prepare for a game at Lambeau Field. Am I right about that? Did that not happen?
It happened.
And during that game, let's just do the big picture first. Odell was targeted 11 times in that game, and he caught 4 balls for a grand total in that game of 28 yards. That was his lowest per catch in his career, and it happened in his first and only playoff game on the road at Lambeau Field, when I can make a case that he was the primary reason before the game that they lost that game. Not to mention that on the opening drive, Eli playoff hot, and they go boom, boom, boom down the field, and it's 3rd and 5 at the Green Bay 35. It's still 0-0. This is the Giants' first possession. And on 3rd and 5, Eli hits Odell with a perfect pass. Just hits him right in the hands for what is going to be a 10-yard gain. And what happened?
Dropped it.
The president of the yacht club, he dropped it. He dropped it. Cold dropped it in the cold in Lambeau, because he was down in South Beach getting ready for the cold at Lambeau Field. And they had to punt. And that was pretty much the end of the New York Football Giants, because they lost that game 38-13. So let's just look at his first 3 seasons so far. Again, he brought this up. I'm just reacting, okay? Talk about elephant in the room. Let's look at the elephant in Odell's room right now. Over his first 3 seasons in the National Football League, he has 83 fewer catches than Antonio Brown. That's a lot. 83 fewer. He has 751 fewer receiving yards than Julio Jones. That's a whole lot of yards. They've each played over these last 3 seasons. You know, Julio obviously in his prime, but 751 more receiving yards. And those 2 combined, Antonio and Julio, they're actually tied for first in catches for first downs over the last 3 years. Odell has 44 fewer catches for first downs than Julio and Antonio, tied for the top of that list. 44 fewer catches for first downs?
But Skip, Skip, you're not. That's not fair, because you're taking Julio and Antonio their last 3 years, and you're looking at a guy in his rookie contract.
All right, but this is Odell. This is what a guy a lot of people are calling the greatest receiver ever.
He's not.
So he can't even so far after 3 years. That's a pretty good body of work in the National Football League when you're this gifted. You can't even make a case so far that you're just the best receiver in the National Football League, can you?